Welcome to Elevate. Welcome to this incredible space. I am so excited to talk about this particular topic today. So, we are talking about bringing the vision to life in 2025. And it's such a beautiful and powerful topic to be talking about because so often around this time is that we are setting our intentions and we are creating the vision boards. And you ask around and you're asking people in your awareness as you go about your day, what's your vision? What's your goals? What are you doing? What are you embodying? But if you ask yourself, how many of the people who create vision boards, and maybe this is in your own life as well, and really looking back on the past, which we don't do often, by the way, we don't want to reminisce on the past. But if we just slightly go back into the past and see when was this vision board brought to life? Were these desires brought to life? Or was it, just a fun activity where the vision board went into the cupboard until you found it later on when you're cleaning some clothes out and you're like, oh, I remember this vision board. Oh, that would be nice to experience that. But we still aren't experiencing that in our reality. So often we create the vision board and it becomes this, beautiful picture on the wall or gathering dust in the closet because of the key factors that I'm actually going to be talking through today in this particular live event. So I am so grateful for you wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are in the world, for making the space to show up for yourself, to put yourself first and say, you know what? I desire more for myself. I desire more. So therefore, I'm going to trust this lady on the internet who my intuition has drawn me towards in helping me bring that vision to life. Like I joke about this, but it is that energetic resonance, right? When we say that we desire more, we will be guided to the information to help us bring this more to life. And it's up to us to take those steps. It's up to us to embody that version and go for it and declare that you are open for more as well. So I'm so beyond grateful to have you here, whether you are joining us live, watching the recording. This is where everything changes. This is where we are drawing the line in the sand and saying, this is the year that everything changes. This year is different than all of the years that have come before because you have decided it to be. And that is the powerful thing, is realizing and recognizing that goals and desires aren't what manifest into the 3D. What manifests is our identity. What manifests is what we are energetically aligned to and with. So within this hour and a half that we have together, I'm going to go through the exact steps that I embodied to be the version of myself who manifested it all, right? And you can see that I'm saying embodied. It's not just steps that I conceptualized and steps that were just a nice thing to know. It was the embodiment that brought it forth. So today, my intention for you is to give you these things that maybe you can put as a list on your fridge, or you can look at every single day and say, how can I deepen this embodiment with these particular steps. So I have so much to talk about today, which is really, really exciting. So I'm going to jam pack as much as I can within this, hour and almost a half. So the really, really beautiful thing, and why I called this space Elevate, right? Why I call this space Elevate is because elevate means becoming the version of you who is elevated, which then experiences an elevated life. So as we elevate our identity, we are aligned with an elevated experience of life. And when I'm talking about elevated with the identity, because there's so many misconceptions when it comes to identity. And you might have heard things like, my future self or my higher self. That is who I'm becoming. So can you see the words that I'm using of higher self, which means this version of you is higher and your current version of you is down here. And also my future self, we're projecting it into the future rather than realizing this elevated version of you already exists in this now moment. And the other part, higher, future, and also becoming. So when we are becoming, and we're always in the process of becoming this version of ourselves, we're always going to stay and remain in the becoming of this version of you. So we're never actually truly being this version of us. And it's in the being that actually manifests what it is that we desire. When we're in the becoming, we're going to continuously manifest that space in between. We're manifesting becoming. We're never actually fully being. So with these principles that I'm actually going to share with you today, I want you to realize that the elevated version of you, it's a remembrance, right? It's a remembrance of who you truly are. It's a remembrance of your own unique energetic frequency, right? Like we are born limitless. We are born limitless, but along the way, we learn conditioned behaviors, we learn beliefs about ourselves, and we become this version of ourselves that is limited, that doesn't believe that she is wealthy, that doesn't believe that she is abundant, but your natural state, who you actually truly are, is limitless, is abundant, is wealthy, is love. So it's really the remembrance of that version of you. So keep that in mind as we move through the things that I have really written down that really helped me elevate my life last year and allowed me to manifest it all, right? There's a real statement in manifest it all. Is like, yeah, the version of me who manifested it all, that version of you already exists. So it's the remembrance and tuning into and tapping into and being that version of you who manifested it all, so that that is what you are aligned to receiving. Because we don't manifest what we want, we manifest who we are being. I say this all of the time because it is the truth. It is the absolute truth. And you can't lie with energy. We think we can, and the ego will make us feel like, oh yeah, I am that version of me. But really, we have to get honest with ourselves. right? And that was ultimately the first thing that I really, really embodied. And, I've written down some steps here. Some of the steps, my goodness, I would be here for so much longer if I went through all of them, but I let all of the steps that needed to come through for this particular event today to really flow through so that these are the most potent ones that I embodied. And it was, that awareness, in that awareness that, hang on a second, maybe I'm not actually embodying this elevated version of me. And it's being really honest with yourself in who it is that you're being. Because if we create the vision board and we ask for certain things to come into our life, for an example, we desire health, or maybe it's that you desire to attract your dream partner, or maybe it's that you desire to attract more wealth. But right now, your energy is saying something completely different. Your vibration, your identity, who you see yourself to be, is vibrating at a frequency of, I don't believe I'm healthy. I don't believe that I'm actually wealthy. I don't actually love myself. And with energy, and I really want to explain this concept of be first, then do, then have. But a lot of the time, 99% of the society are saying, well, I have to have the thing and then take action from that space of, say, for an example, I desire wealth. So what is the action that I need to take? And then I will feel that internally. Then I will feel healthy. Then I will feel wealthy. And I'm not saying that you can't manifest from the 3D. I'm not saying that you can't go out there and, make it happen and force it to happen. Absolutely. But it's not the effortless way. And what can happen in my own experience as well of doing this and forcing it to happen and being like, okay, well, I desire more money. So then, okay, these are the things that I need to do. I need to apply more strategies. I need to go and get another job, XYZ. And then from that space, then I will feel wealthy. It's conditioned wealth. It's conditioned being. And when we are in that conditioned being, we're forcing it to happen. And people around you can feel your energy, right? People around you can feel that you don't actually feel wealthy, that you don't feel successful. And therefore, they will be like, well, I don't know what it is about this person, but I'm not going to hire them, right? Or you attract the money that you desire, but it's from this place of, wow, okay, well, I need more and more and more to make me feel that certain way. Or we wake up and we're like, okay, whose life am I living? This feels so unauthentic to me and what I desire to do. So, really, the place of first being, first embodying the energetic frequency of what we desire, be, then, and then from that space, we take the action, the inspired action. And that is when the whole universe lines up to give you exactly what you desire. So this is what I want to be talking about today, of how to actually match the vibration of your desires, because everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. Every single thing, even solid objects have a certain frequency. And that being your desires also have a certain frequency. So it's about realizing that you can match that vibration internally. And that's when we become magnetic to our desires. That is when we step into the elevated version of us. And that is when we experience that elevated life as well. So this is the most powerful thing, because the law of attraction, and we hear the law of attraction all of the time, manifestation, the law of attraction, but the law of attraction doesn't work without the law of vibration. So we have to become an energetic match to actually pull that in for the law of attraction to work. So through these steps, I'm going to help you to do that. So when I was writing down these particular steps and, what it really took to manifest and call in the reality that I had on my vision boards, it's such a powerful thing, because I remember when I first started this work and I first started delving into manifestation, it's such a, simplistic method that we are taught of, ask for what you want, just put it on the wall, visualize it, take action, follow your intuition, and then release and let go. But I was like, what does that actually mean? And year after year of having these pictures on my wall, some things I would manifest, but it wasn't like I manifested it all. But once I understood how energy worked, once I understood how vibration and identity worked, everything changed. And last year, you might have seen it on my Instagram, but I created a reel on there, which you can go check out if you feel called. But on there, it was everything that I had on my vision board came into fruition. And it was like boom, 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 one after the other. And 6 months later, I was creating a new vision board. This is what I desire for you in the space. That is why I've created this event, Elevate, talking about the identity. Because there's so many misconceptions and I want to debunk them. I want to share the truth for you so that you can experience that elevated life in 2025 as well. So the first thing that I did, and one of the process and the steps, was actually in the decision. Now, bear with me, because this is actually super important. I remember when I first heard this, I'm like, shush, like, yeah. Tell me more of the juicy stuff. But before we actually get to the juicy stuff, we have to allow ourselves to decide that this year is going to be different. We have to energetically declare that this is a new timeline that we are stepping into, and this is the year that we manifest it all. Because the power of decision making, you can declare, and I want you to do this as well as we are on this call together. Sit there and really embody the declaration that this year is going to be different. No matter what your circumstances, your reality is looking like currently. Because so often we look at what our reality is saying, what we have manifested up until this point, or what we haven't manifested, and we base our desires, we base our decision from that space. But we want to take this deeper. We want to actually allow ourselves to make the decision that no matter what is happening in the external reality, that this year is going to be the year that you manifest it all. That was the first piece for me, was actually declaring that this year is going to be different. And when I started, this time last year, I didn't have the evidence in my reality. I didn't have the money to go on all of those incredible trips. I didn't have the evidence that this year was going to be any different. But instead of playing into that lie, I want to say, because it is a lie, because the truth is that you can have and attract anything that you desire to have and attract. That is the truth. So anything else that tells you otherwise is a lie, right? It's like, oh, no, I can't attract that. Well, wait, hang on a second. According to who? Who told you that you couldn't have what you desired? Who told you that that thing was out of reach? Because when we dig into that and the limitations, and we allow ourselves to rewire these limitations, we step into a whole new frequency. So, like what I was saying before, elevate is a remembrance of who you truly are. We are not becoming someone else. So a lot of the time with identity shifting is that we feel like, okay, I need to become someone else. So we start to look at, characteristics that other people have, and we say, oh, yeah, I like that. Oh, I like that. That person's successful, therefore, I need to embody that characteristic and that trait to also be successful. Or with health, right? I need to get up at 5 a.m. every single morning and train, because that is how I'm going to reach the success. And that's why a lot of desires and a lot of vision boards lose their sparkle when it comes to February. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation as we are in January, as we are, really moving towards our vision. A lot of the time they lose sparkle, they lose zest, you lose interest in them because you've set this idealistic version of you, this perfect version of you, who has to get up at 5 a.m., never eats cake, never, has a drink, never. And you start embodying these practices and these traits and these characteristics. And then it comes to February and you're like, oh, no, I can't keep going with this. This is way too much. I'm going to go back into my comfort zone. And therefore, that vision that we had and that we were so excited by in January, the 1st of January, has lost its sparkle, has lost its zest. And it just becomes that board that we put in the cupboard. But we don't want to experience that. I want you to have this vision and bring it to life. So therefore, the elevated version of you isn't this perfect version, isn't this higher version, isn't this someone that you have to become and it becomes this thing and it's hard to reach. Because the thing is, when we create this perfect version of us and we have all of this list of everything that we need to do, our subconscious looks at that list and it says, whoa, that is a mountain that I need to climb. And I'm not climbing that mountain. That is way too hard. So it gives up and goes back into the old patterns and cycles. That's because we're not actually changing our identity, and we're not actually doing it in the way that is effortless. We're not doing it in the way that is actually remembering who you truly are. Because the thing is, you already have these characteristics and traits of this version of you within you, right? You already have those traits. It's about peeling back the layers. It's about remembering that version of you. And when we do that, and when we can actually be her, him, whoever, when we can actually be them, that is when we effortlessly call in the new experienced. So the elevated version of you is aligned with your vision board and calls it in the effortless way. So I made that decision that this year is going to be completely different. So make this decision within yourself. The next thing that I did was going from a place of need, because a lot of the time we create our vision board from a place of need, of I don't like the reality that I'm currently living in, or I feel like this new elevated reality is going to make me feel a certain way. It's going to make me feel worthy. It is going to make me feel secure. It's going to make me feel wealthy, healthy, whatever it is that you're calling in. So we don't realize it, but we're coming from this place of need. Like, I need you, otherwise I'm not going to feel worthy this year. Like, this happens all the time. Women coming into my space with their business, right? With their business and having their business up on this pedestal and saying, well, if I don't actually reach this level of success this year, then no, I'm done. Like, I'm not worthy. So we're putting it up on a pedestal, and we're saying that the energy of needing something is very different from the energy of desiring something. So we want to move you from that space of needing it to feel whole, needing it to prove your worth, etc., 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 into a space of, I don't need it, but I desire it. Like, I don't need it because I'm already whole. I'm already wealthy. I'm already healthy. But wouldn't it be fun to experience a greater level of wealth, a greater level of health, a greater level of love? So we want to move from that space of needing our desires. So for an example, for me, at this time last year, I didn't realize, but I had super needy energy towards wealth coming into my life, because I thought that, okay, well, I need to reach this level of, success and wealth in order to be worthy, so that my partner, Josh, will propose to me. And these are all subconscious beliefs, right? And that is why belief work is so powerful and potent. And I'm going to be talking about this in a second. But rewiring beliefs, rewiring limitations to allow yourself to tune in and tap into the energy and the frequency of your desires, that is when everything shifts and changes to give you exactly what you want. And the thing is, I didn't do this on my own, right? I didn't say, okay, well, I'm going to rewire these beliefs on my own. Because the thing is, if we consciously desire something, but then we unconsciously have beliefs that are not congruent with our desires, then we are repelling them because we don't get what we want, we get who we are being. So it's so important to have the awareness around these beliefs. So that is why, I've always put myself into spaces. I've always, invested in spaces. I've always had, someone who can have that perspective and look at who I am being. Because if we don't have the awareness, we don't know what we need to rewire, right? So I realized that, it was this neediness energy rather than the desires. So I needed it rather than desiring it. So that was really, really impactful that I go from the space of needing into a place of desire. So that is where the true self-love work happens. The worthiness work happens. And I hear this all the time of, you are enough, right? This mantra of you are enough. But I want to get you to not just a place of you are enough, because the thing is, you are so much more than just enough. You are incredible. You are amazing. You are beyond incredible. So to just realize that you're enough isn't enough. But it's this true self-love and realizing that and rebuilding that love from within will absolutely change your life, right? But I don't want you to just love yourself more and feel more worthy. I want you to feel worthy and attract the money that you desire. Feel worthy attracts the love that you couldn't even imagine you could experience, right? I want you to feel enough and then experience your whole life change. So we don't want to just feel enough, but we want to come from this space of realizing exactly as you are right now is more than enough. It is incredible. It is impactful. Because when we come from that space of feeling that self-love from within, that is when we can create the new identity from that space, rather than from a space of, I'm not enough as I am right now, so I need to step into this bigger, bolder, greater version of me. Because that is when our desires lose their sparkle by February. Because you're constantly trying to be someone else because you don't feel enough within. You don't feel worthy from in. So we want to start the year knowing, deeply knowing, and this work is so powerful because the ego can make you feel like you are enough. But if we don't feel that internally, then we cannot outrun or lie to energy. That is how powerful it is. So we have to be honest with ourselves of how can we create that self-love from within? How can we love ourselves exactly as we are? And then from that space, we go from needing our desires into desiring our desires, which is completely different energy and frequency. But we don't want to just stop there. A lot of people just stop there and say, okay, well, I desire more, I desire this. But we want to move from desire into having faith. Because with faith, it's again, a completely different vibration. It's like, I have faith that more is already on its way to me. I have faith that I will attract this vision board in 2025, which is beautiful, absolutely. But where I want to get you to, and what a pivotal point in my own journey was, of moving from faith into knowing that your desires are already done. Because when clients are in my world and they come to me and they say, I don't know how this is happening, but I just have this inner knowing that everything is about to change, that my business is about to blow up. Like their 3D reality is saying something completely different, but they have this inner knowing that it's already done. That is the place that we want to get to, where you have this, without a shadow of a doubt, deep knowing within that your desires are already done. They're already yours. So understanding that, I had to realize that, there was already a version of me that was experiencing, that was living out the desires that I had on the vision board already in a different timeline. So that is why it is so important to know this, because the reason that you desire what it is that you desire is because there's already a version of you who has attracted that particular thing into their life. So it is so important to desire what you desire, not what you think you should desire, not what someone else wants for you, but what your soul is pulling you towards. Because when we allow ourselves to completely, unapologetically ask for what it is that we want, that is when everything shifts, because there's already a version of you in the quantum realm who has achieved, who has manifested that reality. So you will be guided through your intuition when you tap and tune in, become that elevated version of you, that will lead you towards the fastest timeline to attract that. That is why last year it wasn't drawn out over a couple years, but I condensed that time into under 6 months of manifesting it all, because I energetically matched the new reality and I unapologetically asked for what it is that I wanted, even right down to, Josh proposing on a boat. It's like I had a couple of people reach out and, say to me, it's just like, well, that was a bit extravagant, don't you think? And I'm like, no. It was exactly what I desired, and I unapologetically asked for it. And I truly believe that's how we, condense time and attract what it is that we desire, because it's got to be what you desire. Your desires are probably completely different to my desires. But when we reject other people, going after what it is that they desire or having the desires that we desire, we reject it in the way that you desire yours to come through. Like I see this all of the time when people are like, oh, I would never buy a, designer handbag. That is just a waste of money. And it's just like, okay, well, your desire isn't the designer handbag. Maybe it is, but you're just rejecting it. But maybe it's that your desire isn't the designer handbag, but you desire the wealth to put towards something else. So instead of rejecting someone else and what they desire and calling that desire into their reality, allow yourself to be open to receive it in the way that you desire it to come through. So that is just a side note. So again, I energetically matched the new reality. And this is honestly the biggest piece, right? The biggest piece, because the law of attraction doesn't work without the law of vibration. So we have to realize that the money that you desire has a certain vibration and frequency. The health that you desire has a certain vibration and frequency. The whole life that you desire has a certain vibration and frequency. So in order to attract that and call that in, we have to match that. And that comes from within us. It comes from the vibration of who we are currently being. And who we are currently being, I actually wrote this on a story before I came live today. It's not who we are, but it's actually who we think we are, which is our vibration. So it's so powerful. It's such a mic drop moment because it's not the fact that maybe it's you can't speak English properly, or, you feel like you're too old, or it's not the actual age. It's not the inability to speak English properly, but it's your own perception of those perceived flaws, right? You perceive to have these flaws. So it's not actually having the thing you think is a flaw, but it's actually the way that we view ourselves that limits us. So I want to say that again because it's a really, really important note to have. So it's not actually who we are that limits us. It's our perceptions of who we are that limits us. So the vibration and what vibration we are admitting is actually who we think that we are. So for an example, you're, starting out in your business. So it's not the fact that you're starting out in your business that is leading to, slow sales or the money or the clients not coming in. It's the perception that you hold about starting your business. It's like, okay, well, I'm a beginner. I am, not an expert. I have to earn my stripes. I am not successful yet. Can you see the words that I'm using have a certain vibration? They have a certain frequency. And that frequency is what is admitting into the world. And you could consciously desire more clients and more wealth, and you have on your vision board these trips that you're going to take because of the wealth that you're attracting through your business XYZ. Because disclaimer here, this whole live event isn't about just manifesting a one-time lump sum of money, or just winning the lottery, or things like that. We want to actually match the new reality by shifting who we are being, so that it's not just this one-time thing, but this consistent reality that you get to manifest, right? Because there's a reason when people win the lottery that a lot of the time they end up in worse places because they haven't done the inner work. They haven't matched the identity to that amount of wealth. So they go back to It's like the rubber band theory. It's like we stretch, but then we come back because it's dysregulating to the nervous system. And the identity who you hold emits a certain frequency, and we want to come back to that identity because it is comfortable, because it is safe to the nervous system. I'm saying safe in quotation marks because the nervous system or your subconscious mind is what deems things safe. So when we attract a whole bunch of money from, say, winning the lottery, the subconscious, there's beliefs in the subconscious, how you view yourself, and also your nervous system that retracts. So you'll sabotage, spend the money, end up in worse situations. So this isn't about winning a lump sum of money or, just a one-time manifestation. I want to show you and teach you that you can shift your entire reality, that you can experience a whole new reality, manifest a whole new reality in 2025, and actually stay in that new reality without sabotaging it. So this is what we are talking about here. So going back to, how you see yourself, when you are starting that new business, for example, if you see yourself of not successful yet, I'm a beginner, that is an identity that we have attached ourselves to. And when we are admitting the frequency and the vibration of I'm not successful yet, what do we manifest? A reality where we are not successful yet. We keep continuously manifesting the reality where you are not successful yet. Powerful. Absolutely powerful. And I want to talk about how being high vibe is not actually what manifests. So, a huge misconception when we talk about elevating our frequency, we talk about elevating our identity. A lot of the time, it gets mixed up in this concept of like, I just have to be high vibe, I just have to be happy 24/7 and think positive thoughts. Otherwise, I'm not going to manifest what it is that I desire. And let me tell you, I have manifested some crazy things into my life when I have not felt my happiest self, right? Because we are always going to experience contrast in our life. We are going to experience the law of polarity, which means that, there's always going to be things that are happening in our life that aren't what we desire to experience. And if that is true, and we cannot bypass the universal laws, then why would we have the belief that you can only manifest what it is that we desire when we are in this high vibe state, when we are happy and positive 24/7? It doesn't make sense because we are always going to experience the highs and the lows of life. So do we want to hold that belief that we have to be happy and high vibe? I know I don't want to, because we're always going to be experience sadness. Like if you look at the fires over in LA and the sadness that is coming through there, and any natural disaster that happens, it's like that is going to create a range of emotions that is going to flow through our body. And if you think that manifesting the life that you desire is going to mean that you will never have an issue or a problem in your life, then we need to actually look at that, because the law of polarity, of contrast, is we're always going to experience opposites of what we desire. So it's who we be in those moments. So really, it's not happiness and being high vibe that manifests and aligns you to this new reality. It's actually the identity that we hold about ourselves. It's actually how we feel about ourselves. And it is so, so, so powerful, because when we realize that it is identity and that the version of us that we desire to be already exists within us, it's about having the awareness of those parts of us and remembering those parts of us and elevating those parts of us that aligns with a new timeline. And you get to do that straight away. You get to be this elevated version of you straight away. So this is what I have done when it came to creating the identity of the six-figure version of me. When I literally had $0 in my bank account, I made the decision to elevate into the six-figure version of me, even though my external circumstances said there was no way that this could happen. I decided to be her. And that is when the money came. I did this again for multiple six figures. And the life. So it's not actually just about the multiple six figures, it's about the life that comes from that. The houses that we decided to invest in, the trips that we decided to take, the private boat proposal, all of those beautiful things. I decided to be her first. And that is when my whole reality shifted, because I decided to be, then do, and that is why I had, right? Be, do, have, rather than, okay, well, I'm going to wait till the six figures comes to then feel worthy and wealthy and go to those open homes and book those flights, etc., etc., etc. I decided to step into her, to have the audacity to be her first. And that is when everything shifted. And now I have elevated into the $1 million identity. And already I like to call it, the signs of land. The signs of land, my beautiful mentor, Kathleen, talks about this all the time, is that the signs of land, meaning that if you imagine yourself being out in the boat in the middle of the ocean and you're following your intuition and, you're embodying this version of you, you don't know exactly how it's all working out behind the scenes, but you have this inner knowing and you're embodying this elevated version of you. And then you see some birds fly past and you're like, oh, there's a sign of land, because birds need land, right? And then you might see some smoke come up and you're like, oh, another sign of land. So what this actually means is that, when people say, oh, 111, I've seen angel numbers everywhere today. It's not the angel numbers, but it's our awareness and perception of the angel numbers. So I literally turn everything into a sign of land. Even the other day, Josh and I were shopping at JB Hi-Fi for a mic for my podcast. This was before I decided to actually book the podcast studio. But we were looking through the mic section and Josh said, oh, why don't you get a clip-on mic? I was like, oh yeah, no, I have one of those. And he's like, oh yeah, because you'll need one for when you're speaking on stage, because that'll happen soon. And I just smiled to myself, because it's not Josh having the awareness that he's said something like that because he knows that's something that's on my vision board. The $1 million identity is speaking on stages. And it's not the awareness that he had around that. It's he just said it. It just flowed through him. And I'm like, sign of land. Because this is another thing. As we move through and we embody this version of us, and this was an embodiment that I practiced last year, and I'm always practicing as well, is that when something comes into my awareness, I'm like, oh, sign of land, it's coming, it's happening. Because the thing is, like 95% of the manifestation process happens energetically. So, energetically meaning that we can't actually see it with our five senses. So, 95% of it is happening behind the scenes where we can't actually see it. So, whenever I'm distracted by the 3D and I'm like, oh, I'm looking at the 3D and how it's not working or not happening, I come back to the inner knowing and I look for signs of land. I look for, the angel numbers. I was like, oh, 111 today, it's happening. It's all working out. The universe is conspiring in my favor. Because it's not just a fun thing to do, but when you do this and when you're actually aware of the signs of land and you're turning what someone else could just see as 111 into it's working, it's happening, it's already done. What are you doing? You're speaking it into existence. Your words have so much power. I always say your words cast spells. So are you going to look at your 3D and like, oh, it's not working, it's not happening? Or are you going to use every little sign that is coming in that it is a sign that everything is working out? Because that is how we hold the frequency right up until it manifests. Because things are going to come up. There's going to be things that happen in your life, in your reality, that are screaming at you that things aren't working. And it's your ability to be so unbothered by what is happening in the 3D and instead come back to your inner knowing, come back to the belief that everything is working. That is when everything shifts. So the last thing that I want to talk about here is making decisions and acting from the elevated version of you. So before I do that, I spoke about having the awareness of, who you are currently being. And if these things are, circulating your mind right now of, okay, well, I desire health in 2025, but right now I don't feel like I'm healthy. So I'm giving off the vibration that I'm not healthy. Or I desire more wealth and money, but I'm giving off the vibration of I don't have enough. So this is where the energy really comes to play. So we consciously want something, but our energy is saying something completely different. So just quickly, how to shift that. So I'll give you one example here, because I know this will be a question that comes up. And let me know if you have any questions in the chat box as well. But how to shift that is, okay, if it's wealth that you desire to call in, and it's a certain amount, it's coming back to, okay, why do I feel like I don't have enough? So maybe you're looking at your bank account and you're like, well, I desire 6 figures, but my bank account is saying like literally $10. We have to shift that frequency into already having more than enough. Because if we are continuously vibrating at the frequency of I don't have enough, we will continuously attract and manifest not enough. So we have to come back to that experience of our bank account and realize, and you can use the law of relativity here of saying, hang on a second, I am on YouTube, or I'm watching this on Zoom, or I'm watching this on a replay, on a laptop, on a phone. That is wealth right there. Because if you think about it, how many people don't have the ability to be on Zoom, to pay for the subscription to Zoom, or to be on YouTube, to have a device to be able to watch something? So many people. So it's all relative. So you can look at that and be like, wow, I am more than enough. I have more than enough. I have beautiful food in my fridge. I have a phone. I have a laptop. I have clothes in my closet. And it's actually realizing that, hang on a second, I do have more than enough. So if we keep resisting and trying to change into this elevated version of you from this place of feeling like there's not enough, then we're not actually going to shift into that elevated version of us. So we have to change the frequency, change the perception, change the story to then elevate into that version of you. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is acting from the elevated version of you. So the whole premise of, fake it till you make it. It's like you've just got to fake it till you make it, just does not resonate with me at all. Because what are you actually faking? You're not faking anything, because there's already a version of you who is that elevated version of you that exists in this now moment on a different timeline. So really, what I like to call it is that I'm practicing being this version of me until it is just who I be. And when it is just who you be, that is when your whole reality shifts and changes, because you're a vibrational match to it. That's when we become a magnet to the things that we desire, right? But it's not faking it till you make it, because the whole fake it till you make it is actually really not believing it internally. It's actually trying to prove it externally. And your internal world is just mirroring in your external world. So you'll always be in that becoming rather than that being state. So the whole acting from this new identity is the power, because acting is the last, taking action and aligned action. I'm speaking about it last for a reason. Gosh, there's so many other things that I can talk about. We've only got so much time on this call together. But the reason I'm saying this last is because the action is the last piece of the manifestation process. It's first be and then do. So we have to align our frequency first and then take action from that space. Because what people don't realize is that the information that we receive via intuition is only going to give you the information of the timeline in which you're aligned to. So if you're aligned to the same reality that you're experiencing right now, you will receive information from your intuition to keep recreating that same reality. So that's why, for me, when it came to investing in myself, because that was a stretch, that was, from the new identity, there was fear that came up. There was uncertainty that came up. I was like, oh, what if it doesn't work? So that is where a lot of people say, oh, well, no, I'm not going to take that aligned action because, there's fear coming up. So it doesn't feel good in the moment. But this is the biggest misconception because when there's fear there, that is still your intuition, right? That is still your intuition leading you down the new timeline. But it's often we're like, oh no, it doesn't feel good. It's not aligned. But that was just, a side note as well. Because when we are tuned in and tapped into this new identity, you will receive different intuitive guidance that will actually give you the guidance to lead you down to attract what it is that you actually desire, rather than keep recreating the same reality. So this is what I like to talk about as being, making decisions from the 4D rather than the 3D. So for an example, maybe it's that you look at your bank account and say, well, there's not enough money in there. And then that makes you feel a certain way. And then you take action from that 3D circumstance. You take action from your current reality, from the 3D, rather than making decisions from the 4D. So I spoke about this in terms of, hiring the podcast studio. That decision came from the imagined state. That decision came from the new identity. And I call it the 4D because the new identity already exists in the quantum realm. And how we condense time and attract our desires in the fastest timeline is making decisions from the quantum realm where your desires are already yours. And when you do that, you close the gap between where you are and where you desire to be. So making the decision to hire the podcast studio, I made that decision from the version of me who was already speaking to thousands, who viewed herself as having a powerful message, who viewed herself as already being a successful podcaster. And this version of me isn't someone that I am becoming. This is the version of me that I'm embodying. So I received an intuitive hit from that version of me to hire out this podcast studio. So instead of looking at my current circumstances of, well, I don't have the thousands of listeners right now. I don't have the extra money to be spending on podcast studio every single month, like blah, 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 right? That's when we make decisions from our current reality. I decided to embody that version of me, successful podcaster, speaking to thousands, and having the audacity to be her. So I made the decision to book out the podcast studio. So I have done this with so many things. And I really equate this particular step as being such a powerful one in manifesting it all. Because instead of, like, when I decided to go on this incredible trip overseas, instead of looking at my 3D reality of what I didn't have, for an example, when we bought our first dream home, and our external reality said, oh, interest rates are rising, the cost of living is rising, blah, 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 blah. We've just got a mortgage. Who do you think you are wanting to desire to go to Europe after you've just purchased your dream home? But it was a desire that I had from within. It was a desire that I knew was already mine. There was already a version of me who was exploring Europe and traveling around Europe. So I made the decision from that space and I borrowed the money, booked the flight. It was a 30 grand trip as well, right? It wasn't just a couple of grand, $30,000. And it was, a few months out from going to Europe, and we decided to book the flights. That decision was made from the fourth D. That decision was made from the quantum realm. And that is when the whole universe backs you to give you what you desire. That is how you are open to receive. Anytime you sign up or invest in yourself from that space, you are open to receive so much abundance because you are moving, you are declaring, and you are trusting. You're taking action in faith. Action expressed in faith moves mountains. So when we bought the plane ticket to go to Europe, and the whole reality said, there's no way, manifested $30,000 before we went to Europe. $30,000 before we went to Europe. That is the power that comes from acting and moving and making decisions from the quantum realm, from the new identity, rather than your current circumstances, your current limitations. Because if we keep looking at, okay, this is what I have currently, I'm going to feel a certain way from that and then make a decision not to take the leap. Make a decision to wait till the perfect time to do the thing. Whenever we decide to wait, instead of taking the action, instead of taking the leap of faith, instead of, making that decision from the new identity, what are we saying? We're literally saying, I'm okay to wait. We're literally saying, I'm okay to wait. And what does that manifest into? That manifests into more waiting, because we are sitting in the frequency of more waiting. And we make that decisions because we don't fully believe in ourselves that we will be able to manifest the money or create that investment back, etc., etc., etc. But the version of you who's already manifested it all, this new reality, are they looking back and saying, wow, I'm glad I didn't make that investment? Or are they saying, wow, imagine where I'd be today if I didn't make that investment? That was like when at that place where I stepped into the six-figure version of me, when I had $0 in my bank account. And then in my awareness, because I was like, okay, I desire more. At this stage, I didn't know how to step into the six-figure version of me, but it was just this energetic declaring that I desired more. And then in came this program. I believe it was Amanda Francis' money manifestation program. And I could have looked at my external reality, absolutely, and based my decision from that and said, there's no way that I can afford this program, that I can move and make this decision. But I decided in that moment to borrow the money. And the thing with borrowing the money, like I went into, 50 grand worth of debt. 75 grand worth of debt for uni degree. And that is just like so accepted. We go into debt for buying a house and it's just like, oh, go you, congratulations. But when it comes to investing in ourselves, to actually look at ourselves, to actually learn more about ourselves, to actually go within and do the inner work, it's like, oh my gosh, who is she? What are you doing? Oh my God, are you okay? Like, is everything all right? It's wild, it's crazy. But if you can change your perception around debt and look at debt as actually abundance, right? Look at debt as, wow, okay, it may not be my money right now, but I'm going to make it my money. And that shift, you go from, oh, this heaviness, which has a certain vibration, into this lightness and this potentiality of, okay, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm creating. This is the year that everything manifested. It's a whole energy shift. So it is so, so, so powerful. I just want to check the chats, see if we've got any questions. Beautiful. Pop your questions if you have any questions. But I wanted to end this particular event by sharing some really exciting things that are happening in my world currently and in the business moving forward. So first of all, like, thank you so much. There's so much gratitude for having you in the space, whether you're watching this live or watching the recording. It is so powerful, and you are showing up for yourself and stepping into this elevated version of you. So you'll have the recording of this to continue to listen, to embody what I have shared here. But if you want to take that next step further and really declare in yourself that you are open to receiving more, that you are ready to expand into this elevated version of you, because it is one thing, I will say this from experience, to shift in the day and be in the energy in the one call together versus over, a 3-month period versus over a 6-month. There's a very different transformation that happens, especially when you invest in yourself as well. So in saying that, a couple of really, really exciting offers that I'm moving forth with in 2025. So it's going to be a continuous offer as well. The first one is the membership. So this membership I'm so excited about because it's truly a place where you can have that container to expand and grow in the rate that you desire to expand and grow. So there's so much that I didn't actually get to touch on in this particular call. So I'm going to do an extra call next week, which will be the first ever call for this membership, or going into deeper depth of how you can actually elevate into the next level version of you. So I'm going to go into so much more detail within that as well. So the membership is incredible. It is going to have so much jam-packed in there. So it's going to have monthly calls. It's going to have quarterly challenges. So this is where we get in there and have so much fun and embody. The reason I called it B was it's embodying this upgraded, this elevated version of you. I'm going to have weekly drop-ins. And there's going to be, a whole community space as well. So anyway, all of the details will be sent to you via email for that one as well. It's going to be incredible. I'm really, really excited for this space because I've always wanted to have a membership and have that ability to help more people, no matter where you are at in your journey. B is the place for you as well. So all of the details. And then for this month as well, I'm going to have 50% off as an introductory offer within that. So all of the details will be there as well. What I'm really excited about is my 3-month program called Audacity to Be Her. So a little bit about what I spoke about today of having the audacity to be her first, then have the audacity to be the 6-figure version of me. And that is how everything lined up to allow me to manifest the 6 figures with effortlessness. I did the same with multiple 6 figures and the same with the millionaire version of me. So this is the process that I teach you how to do in Audacity to Be Her. So this is where the space where quantum leaps happen. This is the space where quantum leaps happen because every week we are having a call together. Every week there's also an embodiment session. So this is where we are actually embodying the principles, embodying the teachings. So it's not just about coming in and conceptualizing the knowledge, it's true embodied. So you leave as the embodied version of you who is aligned with the reality that you desire to attract in 2025. So it's in this beautiful container in space that is built to allow you to experience a quantum leap because it's such a high touch space as well. So it's a 3-month container. And we are beginning this transformational space in February as well. So you'll also get access to Rewired to Abundant, which is all about creating that wealth identity from within, and also my specific identity shifting process to be able to elevate and hold that frequency right up until your desires manifest into the 3D. So I am just so excited for what is to come for you all this year. It has been an honor to be in this container and really be together over the past hour and a half to talk about this particular topic because it's something that will actually help you manifest what it is that you desire in 2025, which is so exciting. So I'm going to end this call with a really, really powerful song. So for the people who are watching the live stream on YouTube, I will give you the name of the song so that you can listen to that because I'll have to stop the live stream and I can't play that on YouTube. So the song that I'm going to play is I Made It by Tones and I. And as soon as this song came on, I was just like, I need to share this with everyone on this live event because I really urge you to, when you listen to this song, to actually feel the feelings of already you have made it, already you have manifested it all. Because the more that we can tune into that feeling of already having what it is that you desire, we tune into the vibration of the identity and we start to elevate into her. So this song and how it's, I made it. It's not I'm going to make it. It's I made it. I have manifested it all. So that is the whole message from today's call, which is really a powerful one. So if you are joining on the live stream, thank you so much for joining this energy in this live event. I can trust that you've taken so much from this. And for our beautiful souls in the Zoom, we are going to play the song for you. Rihanna, I've taken so many notes. Thank you. Feeling really inspired into action also. Yes, beautiful. Absolutely. It's that inspired action that we want to take And the more that we can take that from the elevated version of you, watch everything shift. So powerful. So I'm going to end this. Thank you, everyone. And then I'll play the